Sponsored by the Finance Committee, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2004-175, known as the salary ordinance, to create various positions of the Information Technology IT Department, non-bargaining classified, and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Bullock.
Mr. President, I move this ordinance be passed in its third reading under emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Stork. Question. Question on the motion. All in favor of the emergency signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay.
Nay. I want to speak on it. Nay.
Okay, we got, you want to do a roll call, Mr. Weber?
Speak on it.
You're voting on the suspension?
No, on the emergency. There's no suspension. On the emergency.
On the emergency. Mr. Lotko.
Aye.
Mr. Gibbs.
Nay.
Mr. Callahan.
Aye.
Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Bullock.
Aye.
Mr. Craig.
Nay.
Mr. Stewart.
Aye.
Mr. Brubaker.
Aye.
Mr. Tanner.
Nay.
Mr. Kirschner.
Nay.
Mr. Burkhart.
Aye. Okay, on the passage, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
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 All right, do a roll call on the passage. Then we have Mr. Tanner. You want to make some comments?
Mr. Lotko.
Aye.
You vote on it.
I'd like, the discussion should be now before you take the vote, because he asked
Okay.
to do that.
Okay, go.
So I think that you should, before you do the roll call, allow Mr. Tenner to speak,
Okay.
or anybody else that wants to speak on the issue of council members.
Thank you. And with that, not to delay anybody from seeing the game, which I don't know why they'd want to, but anyway, I'm at the same position I was. And this gentleman that spoke here in the audience is exactly right in what he's saying. Also, that is what other people I've talked to involved in this that have spoken similar to the same thing. Not that they cared so much who was doing it, but who was qualified and all that. But again, I have nothing against the IT department or raises that aren't necessary really right now, especially since some others volunteered to give a little bit of their future raises back. But to hear that, definitely we're talking to the chief, and I'm going to let you know right now, chief, there's no way I'm going to vote for your department or the safety forces being cut, the fire or the police department. No way. Because there's other areas that can be trimmed that are overstocked. But, and this is a perfect example of it right here. These raises alone would probably keep somebody on the job for a while. And the figures aren't right anyway. They got it up there more for less. Yeah, well, I'm going to show you how to be a little less than less. Because you got overtime for 07 on here. You're giving us the old, the new. You don't have 08s, because you haven't finished 08s. You don't even know what it'll cost you in overtime, and definitely it's cost you some overtime. And that one thing alone, again, I want to compliment the mayor definitely on, you hit the nail on the head by not replacing Assistant Safety Service Director. That is a good start. But we got to finish that start. In places like this, Bill, we can save some money, still get the job done, still down the road, these people inherit raises and that, and that's where I'm at. I can't, in my heart, see that this is proper or the right time. But the gentleman here, that is exactly what we should be doing, is touching on his points and, and getting somebody that is, and I'm like, and I don't watch Judge Judy all the time, but Judge Judy, I have heard her say she's a computer literature on computer, and I'm about the same. But that's neither here nor there. It's just anybody, 51,000 to 65,000, almost 66,000, right off the bat. Not even knowing if these people can put this all together for us, or how long it'll take them, and it burns me, tell you the truth. It really aggravates me. And then we're sitting here talking about cutting and laying off people. Thank you.
Mr. Craig.
We're talking about saving money here, that there's not really raises here because these salaries are created based on an existing pay scale that includes overtime, yet we're adding more people, which should remove the overtime. But this just really doesn't seem to be the time to be adding new positions in the city, especially when we've got articles coming out, we've got the mayor coming out, we're talking about layoffs. Anybody that's been blind, deaf, and dumb and hasn't heard any of the news that's been going out here lately might not realize, but we need to focus only on critical operations. We've got severe changes we're contemplating in 2009. We're talking about concerns of the budget, the police and the fire. Police and fire should be preserved to the maximum extent possible, and that's what we should be focusing on in these new budget considerations. We should be looking at every possible area to save money so that we can do that. And adding these new, I'm not opposed to creating this new department, but adding new positions and adding these increases, I am opposed to. You know, and once again, as pointed out by this gentleman, we've got objectives that are not properly identified. And when this happens, then you don't get any measurable achievements. When will we rebound? At minimum 12 to 18 months. You know, business revenues are flat, and we're still running into problems with the businesses. We pulled this particular item off the agenda prior to the election so we could pass an income tax renewal, so we could try to maintain our safety services to the extent possible. That's the bill we sold to the people. We need to continue to sell that bill to the people, and we need to live up to our promises. And somebody mentioned that the holiday decorations, they look great. You know, they're beautiful, they're bigger than ever. Hopefully there was no overtime was used to put those holiday decorations up, because we need to act with a conscious regard for our expenses at this point in time. You know, one thing is certain right now, and that's the uncertainty. You know, when you're listening to layoffs of 100 jobs from the county, that directly impacts our revenue projections for next year. Look at Cuyahoga County, 900 layoffs. The automakers are saying, you know, for the last 5 years they had declines in sales. It's never happened before in the history of the auto sales. You've got unemployment spiking. You got layoffs all over. You know, we don't know tomorrow, you know, when we go to our other jobs, if we might not get that notice that we don't have a job after tomorrow. Now, we need to make sure that we're conscious of this. These big chains are breaking. You've got Circuit City, you've got Bennigan's, you got Smoky Bones. They got these lumber companies going out of business. You know, these are bleak times, and we've got to be very conscious about making increases and making changes. They're going to take away from the core basic services that we need to ensure our residents' safety. So I'm opposed to this.
I'm sorry you weren't at the committee meeting that most of those issues were addressed, but
Well,
I am too. I was in trial.
I'll make a comment, Ken, since you're going to take that type of attitude towards this piece of legislation. Longevity pay makes us more than competitive, okay? There's about a handful of municipalities in the city of Elyria, or in the state of Ohio, I should say, that have longevity pay. And with that, with these individuals that you're talking, you have to add 10 to 20% on top of that pay, okay? I think some of the people that just voted to pass the suspension, I don't think probably even added up what the cost is. Because when you looked at the overtime, Ken, you know, that the administration is proposing $31,000. When you add the two individuals and you give the pay increases, which pay increases are anywhere from $4,000 to $14,500, you're at better than 3 times the overtime cost. And so there's no savings whatsoever. It puts it at about $95,000. And the last time I looked in the dictionary, the definition of a raise is an increase. And this is an increase. And don't try to fool anybody. I thought it was very arrogant tonight, the way you tried to pass it here, without even letting Mr. Tanner talk.
Mr. Craig.
Cranes reported today that Northeastern Ohio has lost 7,000 jobs so far this year. That's information that wasn't available at the committee meeting. But you know, keep in mind, other businesses right now, they're looking at this in the future of uncertainty and they're tightening their belts. And what are they doing? It includes other municipalities taking measures such as the one mentioned by the lady here. But there are also Toledo, they're shortening their work week. They're going to a 4-day work week to look at saving some money on salaries. They're modifying vehicle usage. limiting cell phones to only essential personnel. They're eliminating overtime. We need to be looking at all these methods before we're looking at increases.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mayor Grace.
Yep, Mr. President, as you described, a great deal of this was covered in the committee, and for those that weren't present, those in council as well as in the audience, and to respond to some of the comments that were made, they were all, good comments that were made.